I've written 42 books. I've been doing it since I was 15 years old. I wrote a novel when I was just in high school called The Anomalous Compatriot, which was horrible. Never published, but a part of what I can see clearly now is a reflection of that. If you want to be a writer, it's something that's in your soul. I call it writing from the soul. Listening to that thing inside of you. In fact, the very last paragraph of this book says, in order to access guidance, I encourage you to make a commitment to be absolutely faithful to that which exists nowhere else but within yourself. This is the great secret for seeing ever more clearly and living your life from a place of passion and purpose. That there is a place that exists only within you, and to be faithful to that. So I have been doing that since I was 15 years of age, and been writing and writing and writing and taking on the task of writing. I write by hand. I don't use a machine. I put the pad of paper here, I put my left hand on the table, and with my purple pen I write, and I allow for me it's like a circuit, and I allow it to flow through my heart and onto the page. And very often it takes 600, 700, 800 individual pages that you have to fill from in here or from out there, and you just have, you're really like a channel, very much like what's happening right now. Even these words that are coming out of my mouth, I don't own them. I don't even know where they're coming from. But I just listen, and I just allow it, and then I'm done with it. I give it to my editor, who incarnated here to be an editor. And I came here to be a writer and a speaker. And it's what my heart tells me to do. It's why I'm here this morning. So the idea of sitting down and writing another book it bears heavy on my soul. It's like it's just exhausting, and it requires an enormous amount of discipline to sit there day in and day out. Because every book of every word that I've written in every book is something that has all come from me. I don't have anybody else to co-author with. I don't have anybody else that I assign to write it for me. It's all something that I take very personally and it's very important and significant to me. But it's also just so exhausting, and it just takes so much. And I was 72 years old then, and I just said, that's enough. And I told everybody, I'm not going to write any more books. I'm just done with that. And so I'm going to use my time to do some other things, which I'm really excited about. Some films, and other projects that I don't even want to talk about yet. So that was the 26th of June. On the morning of the 27th of June, I started writing I Can See Clearly Now. And I wrote, and I wrote, I wrote and wrote. I wrote every single day. Now the children were all there. They're filling up my space there. In fact, they filled that up so much, we were all going to just kind of gather together because it's summertime, and you can sleep on air mattresses and sleep on the couches and so on, and just everybody's just all there, and it's just a great time for everybody to be together. I had to go out and actually rent a place in order to have the privacy to do the writing that was just so filling my soul. It was so significant that in one moment I had shifted away from, and I thought that I was in charge of this. 11 or 12 years ago, I was in New York City, and I was being interviewed by the New York Times, and also there was a man who was also being interviewed by the New York Times. His name is Arthur Miller, the great American playwright. So he was asked the question, as I was sitting there waiting, he was asked the question, "Are you working on another play?" Now, at that time, Arthur Miller was 91 years old. So when the interviewer said, "Are you working on another play?" his response was something that I've never forgotten. He said, "I don't know, but I probably am." And that just resonated so deeply within me that there is something invisible that is directing this play that we call our life. And our human personality isn't the thing that's in charge of it at all. And when you begin to surrender to that, and when you begin to understand that, and when you begin to live from that place where you're surrendering to it and just allowing.
I think the first thing that you'll see a dramatic change in is the amount of time that you have left over when you give up all of the negative kind of emotions. How much more fulfilling and gratifying your life becomes. We'll start with your own physical health. 10 years ago, I weighed 30 pounds more than I do now. I wasn't exercising. I was not watching my nutrition. I was a candidate for a heart attack. I was not practicing good physical health principles. Now, I never really made a conscious decision to say, all right, I'm going on a diet. All right, I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to watch the sugar, and I'm going to get the salt out of my diet. And I'm not going to have caffeine in my diet, and I'm not going to have poisons in my system. I never did that. Those become natural outgrowths of self-love, the non-self-serving kind of self-love, the kind of self-love that is like having a quiet love affair with yourself, where you don't have to tell anybody. It's not necessary. It's just a given. It just is. You begin to see dramatic changes. I started running 10 years ago, and once I got myself into shape, I ran a minimum of 8 miles every day. And I got into a streak, and it's almost 9 years now, of continuous, every day, never missing a day of running. And at this point, exercising and being trim is just what I am. I am trimness. I'm not trying to get there. What I'm really saying is that is not me anymore, and you don't have to go through any pain and suffering in order to get there. It automatically becomes a response. That your body, when you start conditioning it, when you put lots of water in your body and flush it out and keep it clean, that comes from a premise of self-love and some of these principles that I talked about earlier. All right? So when you ask about the benefits in the physiological area are astounding, and they just seem to get a hold of you, and you begin to make intelligent choices or healthy choices that are good for the organism. They come about naturally when you start operating your life on this inner kind of glow that I'm talking about, this serenity. You see, I think that there's more to the universe than what the pragmatists would have us believe. I am open to everything being possible and operate from the premise that nobody knows enough to be a pessimist. Right? None of us know enough. We know so little about the universe. I mean, I laugh in the newspapers. Just last week I saw a story about the quasars. You know, these stars that are out at the edge of the universe. And I said, what is this edge of the universe? I mean, what's there at this edge? Is there a wall there? Or is there a cliff? I mean, what is it? And how did it get there? And what's on the other side? We can't comprehend within ourselves something that has no beginning and no end, because all the things that we are limited to in this space that we occupy now start with beginnings and ends. Everything has a cause and an effect. Try to contemplate for a moment a world which has no cause and effect, in which everything just is, just the way it is. And one thing doesn't cause the other. It is, and it always has been. Try to think of eternity, when we talk about an eternity, as something that we can't comprehend because we're confined in the body that we occupy to only think in terms of when we began and when we end. Look at your body right now, and look at your fingers, and look at your arms and all that, and remind yourself that who you are is not those things. That those fingers were very different when you were a month old. You still were. You still existed. You are not your fingers, or your bones, or your nose, or your ears, or your hair, or any of those things. Those things have all undergone dramatic shifts in your lifetime, however old you are, and yet your essence, whoever you are, continues. It goes on, and it continues to occupy many, many different bodies. This is not a case for reincarnation. It's not a case for anything. It is looking at the world from a perspective of awe and magnificence and openness to everything being possible. And that whatever it is that you call mysticism or metaphysics or whatever is nothing more than just the things that we have been limited to because we only understand what we're confined to. We can have anything for ourselves when we're open to that. As you look through all of the great teachings there have ever been, that one principle of self-acceptance, self-love, taking good care of yourself, all seems to permeate all of the teachings. They just seem to go back. That can't be an accident. There's got to be some truth to that. If you can accept that you are something other than just what your body is, even though it defines rationality and it defines scientific verification and all of that, you can accept that because we know that that's true. Bucky Fuller told us that 99% of what we are is untouchable, unsmellable, invisible. 99% of our essence. We can't get a hold of, we can't smell it, we can't touch it, and we can't see it. It's whatever that conscious awareness is that we experience for whoever we are. And that conscious awareness that we carry around with us can bring about magnificent changes in our lives. The physiological changes I've alluded to, without trying to change anything dramatically in us, when we become more and more enlightened, if you will, and that's a wonderful thing to know.
And somehow I know that the part of the journey towards enlightenment, it's really about, honestly, it's about letting go. It's about doing less and accomplishing more. It's about not struggling. It's about, in the Tao, Lao Tzu speaks about water all the time. Live like water. It's the softest substance in the world, and yet it's the strongest. It stays low. Practice radical humility. It goes from the high places all the way down to the low. Why is the ocean the strongest force on the universe, on our planet rather? Because it stays low. It lets the streams and rivers fight and work, but they all end up down here. Stay that way. Find God in nature. All of these kinds of things I learned and practiced. But the ego teaches us that who we are is not this divine being, that if we let it go and just guided but stepped aside and allowed. And when Sky was singing those songs and said, thank you when it came my time to go. Thank you for the freedom when it came my time to go. Who am I to tell my own children that they should do what I want them to do when I never did any of that my entire life? And when she wanted to drop out of school and out of college at the University of Miami and pursue singing and go out, she said, Dad, I just can't listen to one more lecture on music theater. I want to sing. I want to write my own music. But she thought she was disappointing me. If you knew how much the tuition was there, you could know there was no being upset about that at all. No, I'm kidding. The idea that I should be imposing or telling her what to do. When Serena went and applied for law school and got in within a month or so, took the LSAT, got a high score, went over, got herself accepted to law school. And she was there for about 3 weeks. And she said, this is just something that I do not want to be doing. And she had a knowing, because I always knew that you not only have to experience what you don't want, you have to experience what you do want and what you don't want. You have to experience those things. I spent 4 years in the military knowing that this is not what I wanted to be, someone who took orders and dressed just like everybody else. There are other people who do these things, but not for me. And I understood that with her, and she sent me a text message, and I let it sit there for about 6 or 7 hours, and she was so worried that I was going to be disappointed because I remember helping her write her essay to get in. I said, you're not going to write the kind of essay that everybody else writes they want to get into law school. We're going to write an essay that's going to knock their socks off, And she got accepted. And she left, and I said, you leave with my blessing. You do what you know that you have to do. And the same with Tracy when she decided to leave, and so on. It's like practicing a kind of respect for a person's higher self, that this little being, Khalil Gibran put it this way, he said, your children are not your children. They are the products of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not for you. They come through you. None of my children ever saw me ask them for the report cards their whole life. It just wasn't a big deal to me. You're going to school. These are your grades. This is your life. I'm here to support you, guide you. But you don't have to get good grades because of me. My daughter Summers called me the other day. She said, I'm going to make you so proud next May because I'm going to graduate from college, and you never thought I would. I said, honey, that won't make me proud at all. I'm not interested in that whatsoever. If you want to graduate from college, it's your choice. I'll be there, and I love you. But things that make me proud are who you are, the being that you are. You don't have to satisfy me or fulfill me in any way. It's a hard lesson, but it's also one of, I have 8 children, and I'm close to every one of them. Love every one of them, and they love me. I feel it and know it in my bones every day. And it's because one of the reasons is that I do not live and fulfill my destiny and my dharma through them any more than I expect them to do it through me. I just don't go that way. The Tao says, do nothing and get everything done. Let go. Allow. The ego says, I have to do more. And there's a real irony in this. It's very hard to explain this to people, but you can get more done by doing less. That's one of the verses in the Tao that I worked on, and I swim every day in the ocean. Every day. Usually an hour a day, freestyle, in the open ocean. Or I do it at the pool, if I'm on the road. And I decided to see if I could swim by doing nothing. Just propel myself through the water, but take the effort out. Just let myself go through the water and just allow. Just allow my body to move through the water the way it knows how to do. And I stopped working at it and stopped trying. I swam better, faster, less stress. It's one of those amazing things. I mean, I watch the really great athletes. I watch Michael Jordan. And I don't think he's out there doing what he does because he's trying so hard. It's like, and people will say to me, well, when you write or when you speak, you make it look so easy. It's because I repeat, before I get introduced for a talk like this, I repeat a line from A Course in Miracles. And this line says that if you knew who walked beside you at all times on this path that you have chosen, you could never experience fear or doubt again. And I don't deliver the talks. God gives all the talks, builds all the bridges, writes all the books, and I just allow it to flow through me. And I want to share with you this one exercise that I learned, that I have been practicing, and that is very profound. If you want the qualities of your higher self, remember, I'm speaking here now about God, the God within you, the almighty, omniscient person that you are, the energy that is your birthright, but you have lost sight of because of you're coming to believe things to be true, which only take you to places called ordinary. If you want the qualities of your higher self to flow down into your lower self, you're going to have to bring your imagination into play. Now, I'll be speaking in the last part of tonight's talk about the power of the imagination. It's the greatest gift you've ever been given. And everything that exists in the physical world once started in someone's imagination, including you. If you want the qualities of your higher self to flow down into this lower self, where you can become this almighty, omniscient, omnipotent being, you're going to have to bring your imagination into play. You are down here on earth. Using your imagination, you focus on your higher self in the world above and picture him looking down at you. In other words, from that higher level, you look down and see yourself and the imperfect conditions in which you live. Keeping this thought before you, you set in motion a current, an invisible current that flows between the self that is above and the self that is below. In this way, you are restoring the vital link between you. For from down here, you are thinking that you are up there, and up there, you are conscious that you are down here, thinking of yourself up above. It's very difficult to explain this clearly, as you can see. At the same time, you divide yourself, you also unify yourself. You divide yourself into two, one above and one below. The one above, your true self, watches the one below as he meditates on that self above. And in this way, an extraordinary current is established between the two, making it possible for your superconscious to develop. You stay with your eyes closed, conscious at the same time that you are there in your room, a living, thinking being, while your all-powerful, omniscient higher self above sees his reflection and recognizes himself in you. Seeing himself, he smiles at you, perhaps even laughs a little. And you watch from below and begin to get to know him while he watches you from above. In this way, the gulf between the higher and the lower poles of your being begin to narrow until one day it disappears and they are fused into one. When this happens, your lower self no longer exists. That lower self, the ego, which is not a true reality, disappears. And all that is left is your real higher self. No more weakness, no more discouragement, no more darkness. You become omniscient, immortal, and eternal. Now, it sounds like, well, I'll just go ahead and do that, and it's all going to just work out for me. But what I'm really saying here is that it's an exercise that if you begin to practice it for about 30 minutes a day in your meditation and begin to picture this higher part of you, your origination place, the spark of God that is you, where you came from. Not just because I'm speaking from a spiritual perspective, but whoever the quantum physicists are that are watching and listening tonight, whoever they are as well, they all know that it is an invisible field of energy from which all things originate, to which all things return. That is your essence. It is your true self. And if you can just get that higher self to become 1 or 2 or 3% of who you are, you can begin to access through your intuition the kinds of things that your false self doesn't allow. Muktananda called the ego the false self because in those first 9 months of your existence, from that spark of God that you were, when everything that you needed for this physical journey was handled in there in this miraculous way that is just too profound and too mysterious for us even to begin to fathom, isn't it? It's the great mystery, isn't it? That's what the Tao teaches us. Live the mystery. Don't be afraid to wander into the unknown. Don't be afraid to know that this music that you came here to play is calling you, it's begging you. You can't fulfill somebody else's dharma. You can't do it the way your family wants you to do it. You can't do it the way they did it before. You have to go within and know that this is my calling. Abraham Maslow taught me when I was a young doctoral student, you must learn to be independent of the good opinion of other people. You must learn to detach yourself from outcome. That's what self-actualizing people do. Those are the 2 most important qualities. Detachment from outcome. You don't do what you do because of what you're going to make or what kind of rewards you're going to get or how people are going to like you. You do what you do because it's your passion, because you won't allow anything else to be but what you feel inside. It's what I used to call being a scurvy elephant. There's also something inside of you that is not finite. Body is finite. All your possessions are finite. Everything up here on this stage is finite. That means it had a beginning. It means it ends someplace. But inside of us, there's something that is the opposite of finite, which is infinite or infinite. And it has no beginning. And because it has no beginning, it has no end. Emily Dickinson, the great poet, said that this quiet dust was gentlemen and ladies and lads and girls, was laughter and ability and sighing and frocks and curls. This passive place, a summer's nimble mansion where bloom and bees fulfilled their oriental circuit, then ceased, like these. When my mom passed away, they gave us an urn, as she was cremated, and they gave us an urn of her ashes. It was dust. And I looked at my two brothers and I said, surely this isn't Mother. This isn't the woman who had to struggle the way she struggled and deal with the things that she had to deal with in her life, this beautiful soul. You know, Longfellow said that life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returneth, was not written of the soul. The soul is beyond all of that, because it has no beginning and it has no end. And something that has no end means it has to keep what? It has to keep growing. It has to be. It just continues to grow. I wrote these words out about the soul. The ideal of the soul, the thing it asks for, is neither knowledge or light or happiness. The ideal of the soul is space, immensity. The one thing it needs is to be free to expand and to reach out to embrace the infinite. Yeah, the ideal of the soul is infinity. It's miserable when it's circumscribed and restricted in any way. You know, before I had any children, I had 8 theories about how to raise children. I even wrote about them, all right? Then I had 8 children, and now I have no theories about how to raise children. But one of the things I know for sure about raising 8 children is that nobody likes being told what to do. That little voice that you've all heard that says, "You're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do. I'm my own boss. I can think for myself." That's not the bratty outbursts of a spoiled child. That's someone who's saying, "I have a soul. I don't want to be fenced in. Don't put me in a box. Don't make my life what yours wasn't. Don't tell me what I should be or can't be." It's the infinite within each and every one of us. That's the soul. And every single one of us has it, and none of us wants to be put into a box. And all we want to do is continue to grow. And one of the things I can tell you at this age of 74 is that it's just operating in me as full-time as it possibly could be. I am in a constant state of growing now, and almost an elevated state of growing, just really moving, and things are coming to me so rapidly. Like this book, The Impersonal Life, and another book. You know, Maya Angelou passed away this past week or so. And I put on my Facebook page my experience with Maya Angelou back in the 1970s. We were on a radio show, the Owen Spann Show, on KGO in San Francisco. And a caller called in and said something that she was all upset because she wasn't getting the attention that she wanted. And she said, I never forgot it, because she said, you know, the bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song, you know. And I encourage everybody to honor Maya Angelou by singing your song, and while you're singing, make it a love song, because that's what she was about. You know, her biography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, because it has a song, not because it's demanding an answer. There are no answers, but we all have songs that we have to sing, and we don't want to, as Serena said, die with our music still inside of us.
Don't believe everything you think, because most of the stuff that you think just simply doesn't hold up. And then I created this paradigm for changing it, and we put it to work. And I had a woman at a workshop I do here on Maui every October, this 3-day workshop with myself and Ram Dass. And this woman had been binging and purging for 22 years. Every single day she was close to death. She could barely walk into the room. She looked so bad. And in less than an hour, we were able to look at the perceptions and the beliefs that she had about why this was going on and what it would take for her to change. And it's now 19 months later, and she still hasn't done it once. And we made this shift and turnaround in a very, very quick amount of time. So the idea that it's going to take a long time and it's going to be a difficult process and I don't have the ability to do it, these are just memes. Almost everything that we look at in our life is memes. Virtually everything about religion is a meme. You know,
What finally turned her around, though? I mean, she must have through your help, of course, but she must have said to herself, I'm tired of the way I've been living.
Yeah, I think that's what probably got her here to Maui. But you know what, George, the thing that turned her around, because I'll never forget it, she just looked up and realized that the idea that she couldn't change was no longer something that she could validate. It wasn't true. I kept saying to her, can you be 100% certain that it's going to be impossible for you to change? And she said, and I said, 100%. That means there's absolutely no possibility that you could change. She said, well, there might be some possibility. I said, so okay, let that thought in. There is some possibility that you might be able to change. And I said, now what's the reverse of it's going to be very difficult and take a long time? And the reverse of that is it's going to be easy and I can do it. I said, now you can't be 100% certain that it's true with either one of those thoughts. But one of those thoughts is going to give you an opportunity to get to where you would like to be. The other thought guarantees that you'll never be able to do it. Why would you continue to pick on that first thought when the second thought, and you're in charge of whatever thought goes into your mind. And that moment of realization that I have within me the ability to perceive what I have been experiencing, and I see this with addictions, I see this with people who've been overweight, I see it with people who've been poor all of their life, and I see it with people who've been in lousy relationships all of their life. They have got to look at the thought systems, that most of which are not true, that don't support them, and then begin to pick thoughts that may or may not be true, but at least will offer you an opportunity to get where you want to be.
You can create the life you desire by concentrating on what you wish to attract. Once you master the ideas surrounding this concept, you won't want to use your mind for the purpose of excuse-making. Instead, you'll prefer to use it to really consider what you want to manifest into your life and then visualize it as coming true. Excuses you tend to rely on probably include some ideas that you've contemplated throughout your life to date. Yes, even thinking it will be difficult, or I can't afford it, or I don't deserve it, is engaging in what Aristotle called the highest form of activity. The more you ponder the impossibility of having your desires show up, complain about life's unfairness, and get upset about what continues to manifest, the more those very things define your reality. That's because whatever you focus on invariably shows up in your life, be it what you want or what you don't want. So if you're always thinking or talking about what's wrong with your life, then you're attracting exactly what you don't desire.
We're afraid to be God. We're afraid to have God within us. We're afraid to be our own creator of what we want for ourselves. Instead, we want it to be something outside of us. We want someone else to do it for us, like God or like Mother, the way she used to be, or whatever it will be. And until you're willing to be God, that is, within you, allow yourself to be that moral, effective human being who is doing the things that are going to make life better for you and everybody else. Until you're willing to do that yourself, all it is hoping that somebody else will do it. And the place at the top, which is way, way up there at the ceiling, is what I call mastery. Where you are to your own life, like a great painter is to his or her creation, molding it and shaping it, reacting, having self-creation, being into the person that you want to be, and being able to react and handle every situation that comes along, and understanding that happiness is not something that you strive for, that you go after, that it is something that is always within you, and you can have it any time, anything that you're doing. Not very many people get a hold of that. They think there are happy things to do and unhappy things to do. Happiness is available for you anytime you want it. Whether you're cleaning out your closet, whether you're sitting on the can, whether you're changing your baby's diaper, whether you're working on a project that is exciting for you, whether you're going on a camping trip, whatever it is that you're doing, that happiness is something that's available to you. Normal people don't speak the kind of language I'm talking transcendent kind of language. That when you're around these kind of people, they inspire you, even if they're not even trying to convince you of anything. They have an aura almost about them that you know you're around a special human being. It's like their presence motivates because they transcend the typical. They transcend the normal and go into areas that no one ever dreamt of before and don't even think about the consequences of whether it's going to work or not work. That isn't even an issue for them. Understanding that if you're going to get things done in life, you've got to be able to transcend all of the reasons why it can't be done.
Essentially, energy field theory says that there is an invisible vibratory field of energy surrounding all living objects, including human beings. This field is created by how we think and process our experiences wherever we are in the world. At certain levels of consciousness, the energy field vibrates fast. At other levels of consciousness, the energy vibrates slowly. Essentially, there is a continuum along which varying levels of consciousness are responsible for creating the field of energy. We encounter different energy fields when we are within each other's physical proximity. Where there is strong, continuous energy for extended periods of time, even when people are gone, the field of energy can remain intense. For instance, we often feel sad or happy without realizing that we have entered a field of energy that is invisibly present. While touring the home of Anne Frank in Amsterdam, I almost had to force myself to breathe. The air seemed so heavy throughout this house, which was now a museum where millions of people have come to share the story of Anne Frank. The joyous energy field also remains in places where it predominates. In the presence of highly advanced spiritual people, one can feel love and be transformed in consciousness just by being in their field of energy. Ella Wheeler Wilcox unknowingly captured the essence of field energy theory with these two famous lines: "Laugh and the world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone." Many years ago, I had an experience while walking on the beach which illustrates the message in this popular poem. A woman approached me who was moving to Florida from Chicago. She recognized me from a television appearance the night before. She said, "Do you live here in South Florida?" And I responded that I did and was taking a beach walk after returning from an all-night flight. Then she asked me a commonly heard question: "What are the people like here?" I responded with a question of my own: "What are the people like in Chicago?" She smiled broadly and told me how warm and friendly people were in the Midwest, and I told her immediately, "That's pretty much what you're going to find here." On my return walk along the same beach, a woman whose husband was being transferred to Miami from New York stopped me to say that she had seen me on television the night before and how much she enjoyed the show. We struck up a conversation, and then she asked me the same question I had heard only an hour before on the very same beach. Naturally, I asked her the same question in return: "What are the people like in New York?" She launched into a tirade on how insensitive, cliquey, and unfriendly it was in the big city, and I responded, "That's pretty much what you're going to find here." We attract into our lives pretty much what we ourselves project with our own attitude. In general, those who feel that the world is a cesspool notice the vermin, while those who believe in the goodness of humanity see others of like mind. Many people lament the poor quality of service in contemporary America. "You just can't get good service" is a gripe you hear daily. In fact, Time magazine did a cover story on the decline of service in every field, from retail stores and restaurants to getting your watch repaired. Recently, on a television show where everyone on the panel unanimously agreed on the poor quality of service, I disagreed. I explained that I felt expectation attracted what it expected. When I enter any retail store or restaurant, I expect to be treated cheerfully and politely, and that's pretty much what I get. If I can't find a salesperson to wait on me, I refuse to contaminate my energy field with thoughts of displeasure and disgust. Instead, I begin sending out the energy that I want to find. If I encounter a surly waiter, I immediately bring him into my field of energy with, "Looks like it's been a tough day. I understand. And you've just been rewarded with a customer who appreciates you and how tough your job is. Take your time." Lo and behold, the poet is right. Be glad and your friends are many. Be sad and you'll lose them all. Your field of energy radiates at whatever vibratory frequency you generate. You are impacting and being impacted by the energy fields of many people each and every day. Refuse to give energy to things you don't want or don't believe in is a very powerful piece of advice. Anytime you opt for weeping rather than laughing, sighing rather than singing, grieving instead of rejoicing, sadness over gladness, fasting in favor of feasting, or pain in favor of pleasure, you are making a choice to slow down your vibrations and to pollute your immediate mental energy field. Every morning as you take in your first view of day, you have the choice to say, "Good morning, God," or "Good God, morning." Whichever you choose is precisely the energy that you will invite into your life. Indeed, there is room in the halls of pleasure for a long and lordly train. Remember Ella Wheeler Wilcox's poem while you increase the vibration of your energy field with these adjustments to your attitude. Confucius was a Chinese teacher and philosopher whose philosophy strongly influenced Chinese life and culture for over 2,000 years. He had this to say about patience. Do not be desirous of having things done quickly. Do not look at small advantages. Desire to have things done quickly prevents their being done thoroughly. Looking at small advantages prevents great affairs from being accomplished. I have this quote of the ancient Chinese teacher and philosopher Confucius pasted above my typewriter as a gentle daily reminder to not do anything that will prevent great affairs from being accomplished. It seems to me that we have a great deal to learn from our nature about how we hinder our greatness. Yet it is our nature that we often ignore in favor of what our mind tells us is the way things ought to be. Patience is a key ingredient in the process of the natural world and in our personal world. For instance, if I scrape my arm or break a bone, the healing process proceeds precisely at its own pace, independent of any opinion I might have about it. That is the natural world at work. My desire to have it fixed quickly is of absolutely no consequence. If I imply that impatience of my personal world, I will prevent it from healing thoroughly, as Confucius advised over 25 centuries ago. Shakespeare's observation matches the wisdom of this ancient Chinese predecessor when Shakespeare wrote, "How poor are they that have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degree?" When I was a child, I remember planting some radish seeds at springtime. When early summer arrived, I noticed green leafy shoots protruding above the ground, and I watched them grow a bit taller each day, and finally I couldn't stand it any longer, and I began to tug at those radish shoots, trying to get them to grow faster. I had not yet learned that nature reveals her secrets on her own time schedule. As I pulled at the tiny little leaves, they emerged from the ground sans radishes, and my childish impatience to have this thing done quickly prevented it from happening at all. Now, when I am asked if I am disappointed because one of my books did not appear on a bestseller list as my earlier books did, I think of this observation of the wise Chinese sage: great things have no fear of time. What a compliment it is to the genius of Confucius that his words are still being quoted and his knowledge still applied 2,500 years after his departure. I too write for those souls who have yet to materialize. And if that means sacrificing the small advantage of a position of prestige on a list somewhere today, my impatient ego may be puzzled, but I am content. Impatience breeds fear and stress and discouragement. Patience manifests in confidence, decisiveness, and a feeling of peaceful satisfaction. As you look at your own life, examine how frequently you demand an immediate indicator of success for yourself and others, and attempt instead to see the larger picture. When you are on purpose and see the larger picture, you are able to let go of an inclination to seek validation in the form of merit badges and immediate applause. Italian painter, sculptor, architect, and poet, this Renaissance artist, Michelangelo Buonarroti, is an outstanding figure in the history of the visual arts. Listen to these words he wrote in the 16th century. "The greater danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it." One of the more frequent criticisms I have received is that I offer far too much hope for people in dire circumstances and that this could be a dangerous thing. Despite this kind of fault-finding, I am still at a loss as to how having too much hope could be a dangerous thing. When people tell me of a medical diagnosis which implies no cure being possible, I encourage them to shift their aim to a completely opposite outcome. I talk frequently about the law which has allowed any miracle that has ever occurred since the inception of time to take place. I explain that this law has never been repealed and is still on the books. I cite cases of people who were told to go home and wait to die, who were given 6 months to live, and who freed themselves of their illnesses and their diagnoses. I receive mail every day from people who refuse to listen to the low aims and the low hopes that others have had for them, describing how grateful they were for a message of hope in difficult times. I believe that Michelangelo, who lived a few days shy of 89 years, still sculpting, painting, writing, and designing, in an age when 90 was about 60 years beyond normal life expectancy, was speaking to this idea of having very high hopes and aims in this famous quotation of his. The danger is not in false hope, rather it is in no hope or low hope, and consequently our objectives and aims are diminished by our belief before they can even be worked on and materialized. This not only concerns the overcoming of physical maladies, it includes virtually everything in our lives. The world is full of people who have aimed low and thought small, who want to impose this diminutive thinking on any who will listen to them. The real danger is the act of giving up or setting standards of smallness for ourselves with low expectations. Listen carefully to Michelangelo, the man who is considered by many to be the greatest artist of all time. I recall personally standing in front of the statue of David in Florence and being transfixed. The size, the majesty, the spirit that seemed to jump right out of the marble was Michelangelo saying to all of us, aim high. When he was asked how he could create such a masterpiece, he responded that David was already in the marble. He simply had to chip away the excess to allow him to escape. High aim indeed. And speaking of high, take a look sometime at the Sistine Chapel, where Michelangelo painted the ceiling by lying on his back and working every day for 4 years between 1508 and 1512, a project that lesser artists would have considered to be impossible. Yet Michelangelo took it on, and many more, in a lifetime crammed full of high energy, high talent, and yes, high aim. And one of the people, of course, that was very profoundly important in my life was Jesus of Nazareth. Now, you can look through the New Testament and you can find a million different quotations of Jesus, and I picked one to write this essay about, and it was called About Being Childlike. He said, except as ye become converted and become a child, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, what does it mean to be childlike? I have 8 children, and I have watched them as they have come into this world. And they come into this world with personalities. Some of them come in smiling, and some of them in crying. Some sleep all night right away, and some don't sleep all night for 2 years. They all come from this place called nowhere, and they enter this place called now here. So we go from nowhere, N-O-W-H-E-R-E, to now here, N-O-W-H-E-R-E. It's all the same, just a question of spacing. You get into now here, and we're all going back to nowhere. So our life is sort of like a parenthesis in eternity. And what Jesus was speaking about here is to go back to that place where you have this great sense of awe, where you have this great sense of mystery. And more important, you don't have any anger in you towards the world. You don't look at other people and their conduct or the way they appear and say that I don't like them. You have to be carefully taught all of these things. As a child, you are the person who is laughing and full of joy. For me, the most treasured moments of my life, many people say, well, you spent years in foster homes. Wasn't that a great difficulty and a great struggle? I always say, no, it wasn't a great struggle. When you're a child, you don't wake up every day and say, oh my God, I'm an orphan again today. Poor me. Why did this happen to me? This isn't fair. What you do is you get up and you enjoy your life and you get on with it and you do everything that a 6-year-old child will do. And then you turn 40. It seems like it happens overnight. And then all of a sudden things aren't going as well as you thought they should. And you're addicted to this substance or that, or you're overweight, or your business is failing, or you're going through your 3rd marriage, or any number of things that you would say constitute, failures in your life, if you will. And all of a sudden, you start saying to yourself, why did this happen? And you say, well, what do you expect from me? I was an orphan. And you go back and you relive and look into all of these things that when you were a child, you just ignored. You didn't even pay attention to. And now that you've become an adult, you've got something to use as an excuse for why your life isn't working the way you would like it to work. When you're childlike, you don't have excuses. You don't blame. You don't find fault. You don't judge. You simply love. And this is what Jesus meant when he said, become a child. Otherwise, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven. Have an absence of judgment, and you'll find yourself fulfilled every moment of your life. Italian painter, sculptor, architect, musician, engineer, mathematician, and scientist, Leonardo da Vinci was one of the greatest intellects in the history of mankind. He had this to say about balance. Every now and then go away. Have a little relaxation. For when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer, since to remain constantly at work will cause you to lose power of judgment. Go some distance away because the work appears smaller and more of it can be taken in at a glance, and a lack of harmony or proportion is more readily seen. When a man such as Leonardo da Vinci gives advice, I, for one, am willing to listen with fixed attention. It seems to me that highly productive people have a great sense of balance and harmony in their lives. They are thoroughly familiar with pacing and knowing when to retreat and clear their heads of the immediate concerns. The key word here is balance. To avoid being consumed by anything, you must be able to walk away from it. In the process of walking away, you begin to see your work or your family or your project from a perspective that appears smaller, according to Leonardo. The great Renaissance master is telling us to let go, relax, don't try so hard, remove the struggle and allow our natural divine guidance to assist us. He says, have a little relaxation, for when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer. One way to do this in today's world is to learn to meditate before you undertake any serious pursuit, be it a plan for a business meeting, a job interview, giving a lecture, or painting a portrait. The very act of allowing yourself to go into a meditative state will improve your efficiency enormously. In the past 10 years, I have never gone before an audience without first spending a minimum of an hour, usually more, alone in a state of meditation. What I find in that state, particularly when I emerge from my relaxing meditation, is that I can walk out on the stage or pick up my pen with a sense of confidence that I am connected to a higher part of myself that knows no fear. I become an observer of myself doing the work, and everything seems to flow as if the hand of God is guiding my tongue or my pen. In the process of getting some distance between yourself and your work and relaxing into that space, you are inviting divine intervention into your activity. The less stress you place on yourself to accomplish or complete ironically seems to give you the power to do just that. Balance is what Leonardo da Vinci encouraged us to have in our life, regardless of our pursuits. By all means, get involved in your activities, but try to enjoy them for what they are, rather than the final outcome.